gentlemen, it's the Day 9 Daily! Ooh! Yeah, that musical interlude was awesome! Yeah, welcome to the Day 9 Daily, where we learn to be a better gamer. You're listening to Deadly Weapons by Ludique, one of the greatest bands ever, and they even give me permission to play the song for the daily. Check it out. And I just cut it off abruptly, because I'm a man that knows how to do smooth transitions, hence why I'm a Starcraft master. Wah! This is the Day 9 Daily, number 417, where we learn to be a better gamer. Today we're going to look at LiquidTLO. It's a German player, LiquidTLO. It's really cool. We're going to be examining his crazy play. TLO is well known for being extremely unorthodox with all his play. And this game gets way out of hand because he's playing against Sho, who's also known for being somewhat unorthodox. And the important lesson we're going to learn today is that no matter how crazy the game seems, we'll still know how to play it out properly as long as we're following some basic rules. Before we go into that, I'm going to have to very gently and carefully readjust myself on this chair. Oh, crap, because I have thrown my back out so badly. Oh my god. Am I an idiot? Let me tell you what happened, right? So I'm at this park. I know, right? I'm outside. The fuck, right? I'm outside, and I'm giving someone a piggyback ride. And I can totally handle that, because I'm a man. So there I am. I'm giving Felicity a back ride, to be honest. And I give a little piggyback ride, and I just, in this moment of inspiration, I realize how manly I must seem. Like, I'm sure that you guys have had this experience where you try to lift the girl up, but if there's this moment where you have to not grunt, if you're like, ugh, right, that's a very fast way for her to just not feel very good about you holding her. She's like, thank you, and you're like, no problem. You don't want to sound like that. Let me tell you, there was no grunt, there was no exasperation, there was no shortness of breath, nor redness of face as Felicity is riding on my amazing personal taxi service, right? So I'm like support, and I just decide like, hey, you want to ride on my shoulders? And before I even give her time to say yes, I like squat down and spring up to try to hurl her up to like land on my shoulders. Do you realize how hard that is to do? And this normally would be like a shameless brag. If I was like, do you realize how hard that was because she landed perfectly? Well, the lesson that I learned is as she was midair, I realized, what the hell am I doing? So she, like one leg lands here and the other lands mid-back, and I just start to fall. And I'm like, ah! And I try to slow it down, but I'm basically supporting a human being with just my neck. With just my head that's connected to the neck. Listen. It hurt really bad. So I was like, ugh, I fell over, and that's when all the manliness just evaporated. It just kind of wasn't there anymore. It's very hard when she's like, oh my god, it's fun, how are you? And I'm like, I can't move. We might have to call a hospital. I need to be on a stretcher and brought places so I can moan. I'm like moaning the whole way home. And I'll be honest, like the whole physical pain thing doesn't bug me that much. That sort of discomfort I'm like totally cool with. Like when I snapped my ankle because I drove a go-kart through a wall, which I did. And by the way, here's the piece of wall that my foot hit. It's a steel rebar. Right? Like totally snapped it. Hurt. But at least I knew it was just a foot that was messed up, right? And I don't need the foot to do any of this stuff, right? A broken foot is fine. But when your back's like messed up right there, I don't know if it's just the muscle or if it's like the bone or if I've herniated a disc, right? And there's this real problem when it comes to like physical malady and the way people respond to it. Let's talk about emotional pain for a second, right? If you fail an exam and you fail the class, you know what your friends tell you? They're like, oh, I know it sucks, but don't worry. You'll just retake the class, you'll study harder next time, and it'll be fine. It will never have any effect on you in your life. You know what they don't say? They won't be like, wow, that's going to affect you for years. You might never recover from that. Jesus. I mean, everyone's going to think you're stupid for the rest of your life. I mean, what if you don't get married, man? No one says that sort of stuff to you when you mess something up emotionally, right? But like with oh God, with the way your body works, everyone has a story to freak you out. Everyone, like my aunt, her foot, it itched once. She scratched it, it didn't stop itching for 2 days. She went into the doctor and spiders had infested her foot and there were babies growing in it. They had to amputate the whole leg and she still died. And you're like, my foot itches. And they're like, you might want to start looking on Amazon for peg legs, right? They just blow it out of proportion. No one's ever like, well, if it itches, scratch it. And if it still itches, perhaps you should continue scratching it. No one's ever that calm about it. It's terrible, man. I was on WebMD. I was like looking at back pain because I don't like this not knowing thing. I don't like not knowing what's wrong with my back. So I'm on WebMD. Don't go there unless you want to be really stressed out. Like I was looking up back pains. I'm pretty sure I either have malaria or brain cancer. It sucks. You get a paper cut there. Well, whole finger's gonna have to come off, man. That's what WebMD told me. Terrible website. I'm sure it's reliable because it has professionals giving the information, but I don't know how to navigate through words that are like this long. Just take acetaminophen. And I'm like, it's one of my favorite things, is that. So hopefully my back's all right. Basically means that ordinarily I can look this way with my head, but I actually have to turn my body around. So I'm going to be looking at the game and looking back to you. Kind of like we're doing local news, just sort of panning about in my chair. Let's talk about LiquidTLO, the German players feel really, really cool. TLO is really well known for being a nutcase in terms of play. He is an upstanding, charming gentleman with a beard in real life, but his play is kooky, and that's what helped build his notoriety at the start of the early beta days. The one thing that I want to throw out right now is that no matter how creative or clever or unorthodox a playstyle is, all the players are doing 90% the same thing and 90% the same goals in the game. 90% of it is the same. I mean, for instance, if you envision like a t-shirt like this, I mean, sure, I have like a TL t-shirt and I have like, another, Team Liquid t-shirt and a whole bunch of other StarCraft t-shirts because I'm one-dimensional. And even though they look different with color and logo and all that stuff, a t-shirt is 99% like every other t-shirt. It's cut, it's about this length, they kind of use the same cotton material from it. It's rare to ever see it be that different. So when we're going to look at this game, in terms of creativity, we want to highlight what makes TLO's play amazing. We want to be able to say, this is a brilliant style that we're seeing, and this is why it's clever. But don't ever forget that underneath the surface, 90% of it is the same damn thing. So in fact, it looks like TLO's making 10 brilliant decisions in a row. It's actually 1 or 2 decisions, and the other 8 or so are made for him because he's playing by the same 90% other rules that everyone else is playing by. And one other idea I want to note before we hop into the game is that this game is going to be crazy. It's going to go nuts. And I know this happens. I guarantee you this happens where you see a strat on GSL. Parting, he's so good. His name is Gerund. I want to be like him. You watch his play, he does something cool and just crushes his enemy clean in 12 minutes, and you think, I want to do that. You go on the ladder, you do that, he counterattacks your base when you're attacking him, and the game turns into this 35-minute long nightmare where you have no compass, you have no clue where to go because you have no inspiration. This is one of those crazy games, and even though you might think to yourself, I don't have the experience to know what to do here, don't sell yourself short. You have everything in your brain that you need to know to play these unusual, uncomfortable situations out properly. That's what we're going to see TLO do today. The game between LiquidTLO and Show is getting started. We have Show up here in the top right of everyone's favorite map, Tal'Darim Altar, with sound. In the top left, we have Game of Drones, which is none other than TLO. Game of Drones. There's a man with a beard controlling this brilliantly somewhere. So let's, in this early game, talk about that same idea that we just introduced. That 90% of what TLO is going to be doing is the same as everybody else. Cool. He did an extractor trick. Okay, well that's terrible. You don't want to have your drones juke-a-duke like that. The whole idea of playing out the late game, we can just leave behind. I still want to throw out how very typical this opening is going to be from TLO. We do have a very early hatchery on 14. Ordinarily, we see hatches on 15 and pools on 15, but we see TLO go 14, and then he's going to keep building some drones, and we're going to end up seeing him throw down a spawning pool. Now, in terms of just a couple little tidbits of timing, you still are going to see TLO make a lot of drones. And we're still going to see TLO not get too many gas geysers early on, so that way he has no minerals and 800 gas and he's dead. Even though we see all these little rearrangements, this is, at this point, the simplest way to state that TLO, wow, getting kind of an early hatchery. Let's not overthink it too much. And when we start seeing crazier and crazier and crazier things, we want to make sure that we're in the habit of not overthinking it too much. Also, on a related note, holy shit, does my back hurt really badly. Excellent. Rearranging myself just a smidge. We see TLO doing things like scouting around, like a very good drone, making sure that there's no bunker here. On this map in particular, a bunker here that's just out of vision range of the building hatchery, but within shooting range. It's very popular to build this bunker here. And then you have the Reaper pop on out, hop up onto the high ground, so we don't want any of that. So I think this is increasingly becoming a standard play on this map. We can see some stuff that show's doing, but let's get ready to the good old interesting stuff. There's a queen going down, there's a queen going down, there are no lings going down. TLO is actually going to do a very queen-intensive defense in the early game.
Our drones are under attack.
Now here's something that I want to throw at you. Right when we see our next few round of queens pop out. There's one queen getting started, and there's another queen getting started. Wonderful! Wonderful! Okay, so let's talk about normal Terran versus Zerg. Normal Zerg versus Terran. For you Zerg buddies, when do you normally build a geyser? Right now. That's normally when you build it. 17 of 18 food. Very typical. And then you have blah, 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 a whole bunch of stuff that you end up doing. Now, it's very easy to zoom in too far when you're thinking of your build. I think it's the biggest mistake that you can do is to get too obsessed with the details. I build my pool at this time, so that way all these other things happen, and I'm good. The basic idea with gas is that don't get gas unless you're going to use it for a clear purpose at a clear time. The at a clear time is the size 40 font ending to that sentence. Shouldn't wave my arms around that much. That hurts. Yeah. Again, you get gas for a specific purpose at a specific time. And it's that at a specific time that's the one thing that gets fallen off. Sure, you might say something like, I need gas for mutas. If you have 800 gas and no minerals and you haven't started a layer yet, we have a whole bunch of gas with a specific purpose for mutas, but our timing's way the hell off. So as we see TLO playing this out, the question is, when should I get my gas geysers up? Well, if there's no specific purpose at a specific time coming up, we should delay that. In other words, if we get a gas right now, there's no way in hell we're going to be able to do much with it. Like, for instance, right now, when this queen pops out, and when this queen, or when these two queens pop out and these two other queens get started, we're broke. If we did start getting gas, there would be no way in hell we could end up getting speed. We wouldn't even have the money to do it. We wouldn't be able to afford a layer. Likewise, we see TLO planting a creep tumor, You might think that this is ultra sophisticated. Oh yeah, that's right. He wants to get creep spread because of yada yada this and that. He just doesn't have the money to get 2 sets of larvae and 2 more queens. And the easiest way to know if this timing is off is just to literally look. When all your larvae pop off, you ask yourself, do I have enough? Do I have enough things at this point in time? If the answer is no, well, great. There you go. So now we can begin talking about why this is such an unorthodox defense. We're going for this big queen defense. We have no zerglings at all, which means we have zero vision at the center of the map. These overlords, in fact, are pretty much doing all the work for us. So TLO is going to be getting himself some spine crawlers up. The usual show scout. Show doesn't scout with workers, he scouts with Hellions. Lols! Breaking right on in the front gates. And we still see that TLO has made virtually no gas geysers yet. He hasn't really had the money to. The important thing is that as we see these larvae pop off, right now, TLO has enough money to build out of it. If he had extra larvae popping off here, he would have enough money to build off it. If he got his gas too early, he wouldn't. I'm belaboring this point about the gas because it really is central to every Zerg opening. I think it might be the most generalizable early problem for your average Zerg user. Just not appropriate gas timing. If you're getting more stuff early on, like queens or spine crawlers, delay your gas. If you're getting 1 or 2 queens and nothing else, get a faster gas. Easy for breezy. Last thing I want to note is, before we end up taking a break, with this very simple early structure we see out of TLO, already a number of decisions have already been made for TLO. I always view the way we can play as a little box, and the walls of the box are different strategies. Like, okay, very fast Banshee, fast Hellion, early Marine pushes, early expand, and it creates this little box, and we have to try to figure out if our strategy lives in there. If for some reason it's on the other side of the Banshee wall, it means we die to Banshees. So we're going to see our good friend Game of Drones, TLO. He's going to be planning down his gas geysers. He has these sorts of spine crawlers thrown up. And we're going to see the incredible flexibility of this opening from TLO, but more importantly, we're going to see how these decisions that he will have in the future, how they've essentially already been made for him. Before we go to a break, let's just try to think to ourselves what could possibly be going on in Show's base. We did see some Reapers early on. We see they don't have very many kills because our queens did stuff, but we saw some Reapers. We see a Hellion. Now, I just want you to think, when we come back to the break, we'll answer the question, what could our opponent possibly be doing? And when we come back, we'll start to sort through all those. We'll start to see some decisions happen. See you in about 2 minutes. Until then, let's listen to Ludique. Oh, what's that song Sean faded out with? Let's listen to the second half right now. Oh, yeah.